Cryptocurrency for the masses. I'm Tonya Hall for ZDNet and Tech Republic, and joining me is Nick Saponaro. He is the GM and lead full stack developer at the Divi Project. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having me, Tonya.
So what is the Divi Project? What problem are you trying to solve?
So the Divi Project was created to solve probably the most daunting issue in cryptocurrency, which is ease of use, user adoption. If you've ever tried to use cryptocurrency or even learn about it, you probably know that it is a pretty difficult task for someone who's non-technical and even for people that are technical. So we're really here to bridge that gap and offer an easy entry point for people that are maybe crypto curious or unaware of cryptocurrency altogether.
How has Bitcoin strayed from its intended purpose?
That's a deep philosophical question that I could probably go for a long time on, but there are a few different schools of thought, and of course, Bitcoin initially was created to create a sense of independence in terms of finances for the average person, right? But as many things that gain traction and gain popularity, other influencers have taken their effect on Bitcoin. So now we see financial institutions getting involved, which is kind of, in a lot of people's opinion, the antithesis of why Bitcoin was created. Although, that being said, it could potentially be a necessary evil, if you will, just because without pivoting in that direction, we may never see the critical mass, I should say, or grand scale adoption of cryptocurrency. These people are the ones that make markets, right? They are the banks, they are the institutions. So it's a tough question, but I think, that's the closest I can get to answering in a short period of time.
Okay. So why do people fear cryptocurrency today, and what can be done to help build trust?
Well, I think a big part of it is security. You hear about hacks and exchanges that have gone down. Big one a few years ago being Mt. Gox, where a lot of people lost a lot of money in that and never recovered it. So things like that probably scare people. Also, the daunting level of technology. It's a very technical asset class, so it requires a lot of knowledge, which can turn a lot of people away. So I think a big part of moving forward is what we're trying to accomplish, of course, in A, educating, and B, creating some sort of ecosystem that is more approachable to the average person.
What makes Divi different from other cryptocurrencies? Compare Divi to maybe another collection service.
So a lot of cryptocurrencies are geared toward cryptocurrency users, people that are already engaged with cryptocurrency and understand it. But a lot of people, including people like Andreas Antonopoulos, who's one of the leading Bitcoin evangelists, believe that to move forward, a focus on the user experience is necessary. So I think that's a big part of what sets us apart. So things like allowing for usernames to be used and pictures to be used instead of long strings of numbers and letters as your receiving address. Little things like that can make the user experience a lot more accessible. We like to compare ourselves to basically a cryptocurrency version of PayPal, which is obviously something that millions of people use every day and are familiar with from the bat.
How does Divi change the private aspect of cryptocurrency?
So I guess there are what are called privacy coins, right, which pretty much obfuscate the details of a transaction from the outside world. I'm sure you've seen a lot of governments cracking down on that type of coin. So in that sense, we are not a privacy coin in that sense. That said, we do offer the option to send and receive transactions privately, just like you would on Venmo. Do you ever use Venmo? So how you can have a private transaction that doesn't show up on the social feed. So we have options like that. But really, I think it's important to distinguish the difference between privacy and security. And security is something that we're extremely focused on. And we work hand in hand with a security firm to make sure that when you're interacting with any part of our ecosystem, you're 100% secure and safe in doing so.
How do you plan to achieve a critical mass of acceptance, and why would that be important?
Well, I think, critical mass or mass adoption is talked about a lot in cryptocurrency and in the industry as a whole, is of course trying to move toward that. But I still think we're relatively far off from actually achieving that, not just Divi, but the whole industry. I think people are just becoming aware of Bitcoin and probably aren't aware of all these altcoins that are out there. That said, we're working towards that by offering opportunities like our one-click installer of our master nodes, which is basically a new way to earn cryptocurrency as an alternative to like mining, for example. But to get to critical mass is going to take, there needs to be a killer app, right? Just like, email kind of brought the internet to the forefront and people were able to connect with each other easily. There needs to be something along those lines that is beneficial to people and is a viable alternative to something that exists right now.
There were a lot of people who've made lots of money in crypto in 2017, but isn't it still just speculating? I mean, what hard assets form the foundation of value?
Yeah, so much like anything that value is placed upon, it's really just a matter of how much someone is willing to pay versus how much someone is willing to sell for. And that can be said with almost anything. Now, if you look at something like gold, right, we say that gold backs up its value because it's a physical thing that you can touch and feel. Real estate is a physical thing that you can touch and feel. So I hear a lot of speculative talk about cryptocurrency and how it's not backed up by anything. But my argument is always neither is the US dollar. Ever since we got off the gold standard, the value is pretty much set by the Fed. What backs these companies up, though, is the technology and the not just consumer applications, but the vast enterprise applications that could be potentially come out of this industry. So I think that's what you're investing in.
What's the right balance between privacy and anonymity?
I don't know if that's for me to decide, to be honest. Regulations are going to probably dictate that answer more than anything, because of the sort of inherent anonymity of Bitcoin. In the beginning, it was used for a lot of illicit things, on the dark web or what have you, which is, I guess, one of the big reasons that governments are attempting to regulate the privacy coins that I spoke of earlier. I think the right balance is somewhere in between. I think a big problem with centralized banking is things like Equifax, the big hack that happened where all of these people's information were stolen, and it was only possible because they were held on this centralized database. So I think the balance can be struck by decentralizing, which is the whole point of blockchain and cryptocurrency, is storing the data across a peer-to-peer network and allowing for or disallowing for one central point of failure. So the balance is difficult to strike, but again, I think the regulatory bodies of the world will kind of tell us where to fall on there.
Why do you call Divi an eco-friendly cryptocurrency?
So we call it an eco-friendly cryptocurrency because in comparison to mining, say Bitcoin, it uses about 99% less energy than a mining rig or an ASIC miner that you might set up in your home, or a lot of people are setting up whole warehouses of Bitcoin mining operations now. Because our consensus method is not proof of work, which is what Bitcoin is, we are proof of stake, 100% proof of stake consensus protocol. All that is required to interact with our ecosystem as a node is pretty much just a basic computer, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and a 20 gigabyte hard drive, and you're onto it. So because of that, it's not generating insane amounts of energy all the time. I'm sure you've read about one Bitcoin transaction could power, Estonia for a day or whatever. So that's the explanation there behind that.
Quantum computing is the future. So how does quantum computing threaten cryptocurrency?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people are kind of wondering that now, and there's already a lot of technologies sort of being researched and developed to hopefully combat that in the future. The problem is we really don't know what quantum computing will bring because it barely exists now, and it really only exists on a very high enterprise level. So we're probably a few years out from that, but I like to look at it like how safes were made. When banks started coming out, they put their money just behind locked bars. Somebody broke through the bars, they made better bars. Somebody broke through those, they made a safe. Somebody broke into the safe, they put a digital code on it. Somebody figured out how. So the point I'm trying to make here is there will always be an answer to every problem as we move forward. And as I said, there's already quantum resistant ledgers being developed. There's another technology called the Tangle that's supposed to be more quantum resistant. But until we get there, it's hard to know what to do to combat it.
What is the future of cryptocurrencies with regards to the intervention by governments and the banks that influence or control them?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're seeing a lot more interaction from governments now, especially in the United States, the SEC, the CFTC, and of course, the institutional investing firms. Even the New York Stock Exchange is getting involved now. So I think it's, again, like I said in the beginning, it's a necessary evil. Without regulation, people that are more maybe conservative in their financial transacting are probably not going to trust something that's simply just a program that was created by someone they don't know, in the sense of Bitcoin. So I think with these regulations, companies can then thrive. Of course, a lot of companies are going to go down because of this. Even we had to retroactively become compliant with various world governments based on regulations that came out after we even started the company. So it's really important, I think, for all of these blockchain companies to be focusing on that and being aware of the new regulations, new laws, and everything that are coming out, so you can survive the next wave, if you will.
Nick Saponaro, GM and lead full stack developer at the Divi Project. If somebody wants to connect with you, maybe they want to find out more about the work that you're doing, how can they do that?
Yeah, so of course you can find us on our website, diviproject.org. We have a blog on there that we post weekly updates to. We have a Telegram announcements channel that you can find on our website as well. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's all Divi Project. And you can always reach out to me directly on any of those channels as well.
Thanks again, Nick. And if you guys want to connect with me, maybe you want to find more of my interviews, you can do that right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, maybe by going to my website, tonyahall.net. I've got links to all my social channels. And thanks for watching.